Hello fellow crocheters, welcome to a new crochet video. I recently crocheted myself a lacy cardigan which many of you liked. That garment was a great addition to my summer wardrobe and I thought one would be enough for this summer. But then I bought a new dress. I fell in love with it the moment I saw it, and the moment I tried it on I thought, oh my, it really calls for a lacy shoulder garment. As destiny would have it, I actually had a perfect match yarn, exactly the same shade of blue as the print on my new dress. Instantly, I put aside all of my crochet projects and started stitching a new lacy shoulder garment. It only took me a few days to make it, and now I'm happy to present it to you. Ta-da! I think it would be a stretch to call it a cardigan. A bolero or lacy shrug would be more appropriate terms. I like to call it a lacy bolero. I made it with 100% mercerized cotton yarn, which is called Alize Bahar. This yarn is produced in Turkey, and in the Turkish language, Bahar means spring, and Alize is a kind of tropical wind. What a marvelous name for this beautiful yarn. This yarn comes in skeins of 100 grams, and for my size, I used 2 skeins. The lacy stitch that I used might be familiar to you. I already have a tutorial for it on my channel, and I will link it in the description box below. Now, before I move on to sharing the technicalities of crocheting this lacy bolero, I would like to show you another item that I crocheted a few years ago, but didn't really have a chance to wear it as I didn't have anything to wear it with. Isn't it pretty? I think this shawl goes really well with my new dress too. And now back to the lacy bolero. To make this bolero, I crocheted 3 panels, the back one and 2 identical ones for the front. The first piece that I crocheted was this one, the biggest one. Now, how did I determine the length of my starting chain? I took the measurement around my bust, which was 32 inches. I divided it by 2, which gave me 16 inches, and then I added 3 inches to it. So I knew that the length of my starting chain should be somewhere 18-19 inches long. My starting chain had to be a multiple of 8 plus 5, and for that reason I gave myself that 1 inch margin just to make sure that I don't end up with half of a pattern repeat. And for my size I ended up with 93 chains. I have 11 pattern repeats, and 11 times 8 is 88 plus 5 gave me 93, and then I simply continued crocheting following the pattern. My length over here is 15 inches. You can either take a measurement from the top of the shoulder down to the point of how long you want your garment to be, or you can simply crochet and try it on from time to time until the piece reaches your desired length. Now, to determine the starting chain for the panel, front panel, I looked at my back panel and I noticed that I have 11 pattern repeats. I knew I had to divide these pattern repeats into 3 parts, and my middle part should be slightly more narrow than these side parts. So it made sense to me that I should have 4 pattern repeats for the panel on this side and 4 pattern repeats for the panel on this side, which leaves 3 pattern repeats in the middle. So for my front panel, I started with 37 chains and then simply continued crocheting following the pattern. And I made the second panel in the same way. On my front panels, I left yarn tails long enough so I can use them for stitching the shoulder seam. The next step is to stitch the panels together. I'm going to use a tapestry needle to stitch the panels together. Now, how am I going to fold them? This is the right side of the back. This is the right side of the front panel. Right sides must be facing each other. So this is how I fold it. Again, the right sides are facing each other. And the same thing I do with this second panel. Now I'm going to make the shoulder seams over here and the side seams over here. The seams are all done. I have a couple of yarn tails that I need to hide. Then I will attach the yarn over here and crochet a border or trim around the opening and also at the bottom of the garment. And here is my finished bolero. For the trim or border over here, I made 1 round of single crochets, then 1 round of slip stitches. And around the arm openings I crocheted 2 rounds of single crochets and 1 round of slip stitches. It took a few attempts to figure out how many decreases to make, and eventually I ended up with making 3 single crochets, then 2 single crochets finished together, 3 single crochets and 2 single crochets finished together. So I made 1 round of single crochets with those decreases, then the second round without decreases, and then a round of slip stitches. But depending on what yarn you are going to use and what your crochet tension is, the amount of decreases that you'll have to make might be different. And that's basically it. A very simple garment to make. And as I said before, the lacy stitch that I used for this bolero is already available on my channel, and I will give you the link.